Welcome back, y'all. We back here again at Barrels and Bullets. And today, as you can see by the title, we're going to be talking about suppressors. Now, most people think suppressors are this thing that's only used for military, extremely difficult to get, and most people can obtain them. They're only used for machine guns. They take the government's uh, this deep dark process or background investigation for you to be able to own suppressors. And honestly, it's partly true, but not really. So most people attribute silencers to being super quiet, like you see on movies. You know, you shoot a firearm and you don't hear nothing but a little. That doesn't really happen for most calibers. So what you see on TV is not how silencers completely function, and I'm gonna go a little bit deeper into what I mean. So there's a difference between what you can see on the movies and what actually happens in real life. So we know that firearms create a small explosion every time you pull that trigger, and a round goes off. Now, to mitigate the sound from that explosion, especially on your larger calibers, people use suppressors or silencers. Now, in some calibers, such as 300 blackout, when you use a suppressor, it actually can make it pretty close to movie quiet. However, in general, that doesn't apply to calibers such as like 5.56, 308, and whatnot, unless you're using subsonic rounds, which is a whole different conversation. But for simplicity, um, suppressors again are used for to reduce the sound signature of a firearm. This obviously can be handy if you're law enforcement trying to keep that tactical advantage, or if you're hunting, you want to not spook all the animals around, and you shoot one and the whole clan or whatever they are, a group of animals just run off, and now you only got one animal, and hopefully you actually hit it. Um, but I'm gonna go into the basics on how you can obtain one, the different types, and what applications they actually can be used for. So first, you have to understand that they can be attached via direct thread, so just as simple as screwing the suppressor onto the end of the barrel, or a QD mount. Various companies have a whole bunch of ways in how they do this, but generally, real quick, you can snap it on, it locks in, you're good. Cool. So then you have to think about the application in which the suppressor may be used for. So some people, like I said, they use it for hunting, for duty use, for simple recreation, or competition. Now, when you think about which one you may want to use it for, you have to understand that at the end of the day, generally, there is no uh, one size fits all or one fix for every problem or thing that you want to mitigate. So what I mean by that is if you want to have this super short package, um, for a suppressor, your sound mitigation may be a little higher than something that may be a little bit longer. For example, I have this 5.56 suppressor. Now, if I wanted this to be a shorter package on, let's just say, a 10.5 inch or 8 inch 5.56, for whatever reason you might want that, this will maybe cut in half. So with this cut in half, now the silent signature is still going to be pretty loud. Not to say it won't be loud with this one, but it'll be better. Your sound mitigation will be better with this one. Versus if I were to use something like this, where you can obviously see it's a little bit longer, a little bit more volume, the sound mitigation obviously be lower. However, now you have to deal with all this extra length. And then you have to consider things such as durability, cost, and weight. So there's a lot of variables that you have to consider when you want to buy a suppressor, and really think about not the what ifs of how you could use the suppressor, but what is going to be the main use of the suppressor. Cool. So also suppressors are helped to reduce flash mitigation, as well as to kind of reduce the recoil impulse or soften the blow. So for instance, on my AR-10, when I shoot it, just no suppressor, it's okay to shoot. It's not really an issue. But when I put that suppressor on it, maybe you can shoot an extra one or two more magazines without feeling beat up or it's too loud for the people around you. It just helps make the shooting experience enjoyable for everybody. It's not like this thing that can really, I don't know the word for it, but it can, whatever they portrayed as movies, you know, this stupid stealthy thing where you can sneak up on people and kill them or whatever they want to portray it as. It's not like that. It just helps the shooter protect themselves as well as those around them. Whether people see it as like that, it don't matter. That's what it's meant to do. So, I'm gonna quickly talk about um, the current legal landscape. So, obviously, in order to own a suppressor, you may or may not know that you have to pay a $200 tax stamp on top of the price of the suppressor. So I personally see that as unconstitutional. One, because I shouldn't have to pay a tax to exercise my rights. One, two, a silencer is not a firearm, so there's no reason that it should be um, regulated as such. And I don't think firearms should be regulated, but that's a whole different conversation. But you have to pay a $200 tax stamp for each suppressor that you purchase. So let's just say you want to get, you know, one for your hunting rifle, one for your competition rifle, and one for your self-defense rifle. That's $600 extra that you have to pay just for someone to say, "Oh yes, you can own this." It doesn't make it any less. It doesn't make it any less dangerous or any more safe. You just have to pay that tax, and they be like, "Oh yeah, now we're good. You can own this suppressor all you want." Crazy, ain't it? Now you got to understand that there are some legal. There is some, what's my word? There are some bills that are out there trying to at least remove the tax stamp, and hopefully we can get to the point where it's completely removed from the NFA, or National Firearms Act, which is the law that regulates these items. You just gotta make sure that you are aware of your current local, state, and obviously federal laws, so you can stay in compliance. Because there are some states where you cannot own suppressors. Unfortunately, it is what it is. Now I'm gonna go through the process of owning a suppressor. Now, I personally, I love Silencer Shop. They make it extremely simple. And like I said, most people think it's a hard process to get a suppressor. I've even had people say, "Don't you need a letter from the government?" Technically, not really. So I'm gonna break it down. So let's just say you wanted to buy a suppressor. You go on the website, boom, you add it to the cart. Now, the cool thing about Silencer Shop is they have an app. Now, when you submitting your paperwork, you have to submit fingerprints, a passport photo, and obviously your address and all of your personal identification information. Cool. So they got this app where you can do it all on your app. I mean, and what I mean by on the app is the passport photo. And they have these kiosks generally at your local gun stores. You can look it up. They have like kiosk locators. You go to the gun store, you do your fingerprints on the machine, done. You just verify everything is correct. It'll be linked to your account, I think, via email. I don't remember exactly because it's been so long. But nevertheless, it's super simple process with Silencer Shop. Because once you do it one time, you can buy as many suppressors as you want. Just obviously verify that your information is correct. The only thing I've had to recently do was update my passport photo. Forgot how long it had been, but I just updated super quick with my phone, and I was good to go to keep going. Um, so once you do that, you buy the suppressor. You go through those steps, and then at this point, you have to wait until Silencer Shop ships the suppressor to your local FFL. Once they do that, they'll do this thing called certification, and basically you're signing the paperwork saying that everything is correct. So once they send it off, you won't have no issues. This is typically done on a desktop or a laptop, not a phone, because this, as you know, any government program is prone to crashing, failing, whatever the case may be. There's been plenty of errors where people had to wait an extra 2 or 3 days just to certify the product. It happens. But once you certify it, the paperwork is sent off to the ATF, and now you're playing the waiting game. Now, this is another thing that people got an issue. So they'll say, I paid these thousands or hundreds of dollars for my suppressor on top of the tax stamp, and now I gotta wait 6 to 9 months. This was the case for decades on decades. For me, I didn't really have this experience because every time that I purchased a suppressor, I just so happened to be moving or whatever the case may be through the military, and I was able to expedite my process. No, that wasn't on purpose. It just so happened to happen that way. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have bought it knowing me. But most people have to wait 6 to 9 months, some even further than that. There are groups on Facebook where people argue back and forth. Not really argue, but kind of state their frustrations because there's this person that waited 9 months, still waiting, and then there's this person that been waiting 4 months and they got it just like that. So recently, the ATF improved their process from the idea of this one brilliant guy. Thank God for him. Where the times for suppressors were cut down tremendously. People were getting their tax stamps and registrations back within 1, 2, 3 days, and then it kind of lengthened out to a couple weeks, but still relatively fast. Now, obviously, the issue with that is, of course, everybody don't want to suppress it in. Even I was going back to look to see what they had to offer, even though I have 4 of my own. You go back, everybody out of stock, everything's on back order. So that's the current situation with them now. I just wanted to go over again the kind of different suppressors that are out there and go a little bit deeper into the application. So I have a 5.56 dedicated suppressor. This is a 30 cal suppressor. This is considered a specialty, at least on the website it is. 12 gauge suppressor. And then I have a rimfire or a 22 suppressor. Now, for your first suppressor, I generally recommend, most people recommend that you get a 30 cal or 45 caliber suppressor. The reason being is it allows you to shoot multiple calibers through it, anything lower than that given caliber. So if you get a 30 cal suppressor, you can obviously shoot 223 or anything smaller than 30 cal. But you try to shoot a 9mm through here because it's bigger than 30 cal, it ain't happening. You have to really go into the descriptions and understand the suppressors. So what I mean, you have rifle suppressors and then you have pistol suppressors. So let's just hypothetically say, I want a 9mm suppressor. Just pretend this is one. You go and buy it, and obviously it's bored out bigger than a 308. You go and buy that suppressor and try to put a 308 through it. You might blow it up because it's not meant for those type of pressures. So you really have to understand what are you trying to attach it to, the calibers you're trying to suppress, and the application. So obviously, if you want to go hunting, you can't get this big old heavy. I mean, you can, but it's not optimal to get this big heavy suppressor that's meant for, let's say, military use to carry around on the end of your bolt action lightweight rifle. You're gonna change the point of impact, definitely, and then don't nobody want to lug that around. Because you may say, oh, it's just a couple more ounces, but after a few miles, a few hundred yards for some people, it's gonna get a little too much. And then you have to consider things such as material. So like I said, there's a bunch of different factors to consider when you want to choose your suppressor. So if you want it lightweight, you want it more durable, you want the sound mitigation to be more, maybe you don't necessarily care about sound mitigation. You might want to just take the edge off. You may want to consider blowback. So there's these 2 general types of suppressors, which is the traditional, like this one. The Q-Full Nelson is a traditional suppressor in that it is a baffled suppressor. So what I mean by that is when the high pressure gas is going through down the barrel, it enters into the suppressor, and there's these baffles to slow down the gas to allow it to cool off, hence reducing the sound signature. Versus this one, which is the now Huxworks, it was the OSS. This is a flow through design. So when the gas enters into the suppressor, it does this whole loop-de-loop, swoop-de-swoop, but it allows the gas to exit the front of the muzzle. So the sound mitigation isn't as much as it would be in a traditional blowback. Now, the consideration there would be how much gas or blowback you're getting into your face. So people oftentimes complain about blowback from traditional suppressors that can be mitigated by like adjustable gas blocks and whatnot, or a good design for a suppressor. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is to understand why you want the suppressor, and consider things such as price, durability, weight, and all that good stuff. So that's pretty much everything I can think of off the top of my head to talk about for suppressors. I personally love all of mine. I wouldn't go back and change any purchases that I made, because at the end of the day, they just make the shooting experience so much better. I love using them. Easy to clean. Speaking of easy to clean, I'm glad I said that. There are certain suppressors where you can take them apart. I can't do it on YouTube because YouTube. But there are some where you can take them apart and they're self-serviceable, so you can clean all the carbon that then build up. Where others, you have to send them back to the manufacturer for cleaning after a certain number of rounds. I personally wouldn't advise that. I like to clean it myself. But you do you. So with that being said, if you have any more questions on how to own suppressors, if you want any recommendations on where to go look, if you can't find any or the type, just drop it down in the comments. And let me know, or let me know what questions that you have. Words. But with that being said, there's going to be the end of this video. And again, I appreciate y'all for watching. Make sure you subscribe, like, share, and comment. And I look forward to bringing y'all more content.